Today we're talking about Heimdallr again. Probably one of the most anticipated releases of the year. I personally am really looking forward to him, and today we get a closer look information that gives us some more details about the character. A quick reminder at the start, Heimdallr will be a hunter, but he will be a warrior hunter basically. At this point I think I figured out why he is classified as a hunter and not as a ranged warrior or something, but we'll talk about that later in the video. If you already watched the HiRez panel video that I made where I summarized the panel that they had about Heimdallr, this will contain a fair bit of repetition of that and then some new details along with that. It'll also have some visuals that are a little bit clearer than the PowerPoint slides that we had as photos. And with that, let's begin. Who is Heimdallr? At the edge of Asgard and Midgard, there stands a god with unmatched senses. From this vantage point, he sees and hears of important matters from all the 9 realms. Heimdallr has built great wisdom from this power, and he lives in solitude to stay dedicated to his cause, prevent any trespassers from entering Asgard. Our vision. Heimdallr fits perfectly into the Season 6 SMITE God plan. He brings many things that SMITE players haven't experienced recently. His visuals convey that of a true legendary Norseman. He is a physical hunter and he is highly requested by the community. This god's mythology and themes tend to relate to game mechanics involving vision and map awareness. Heimdallr will have multiple abilities that relate to in-game vision advantages. We had a little bit of a spoiler on this in the panel already, but apparently there's more than just the passive that's related to vision, which is very interesting. This is not enough for a full god kit in SMITE, so we extended this theme to that of a precise ranged character. Someone with such skills would certainly have perfect aim, which led us to the hunter class. Heimdallr's skills translate well to this role, while his mythology allows us to inspire a fresh take on the hunter class. Wearing heavier armor and hurling hefty axes, he brings strength to a traditionally agile role. Theme: vigilance, precision, and legendary items. Heimdallr is a hunter who wields unique vision mechanics, a new type of basic attack hit chain, the legendary Gjallarhorn, and the Bifrost itself. Please comment down below if you think it should be pronounced Bifrost or Bifrost. Not because I actually care or think it would be a productive discussion to have. No, the YouTube algorithm just likes it. Visuals. The Shining One. Clean, bright, and ornate armor with clear Norse inspirations. Includes his sword, horn, and use of the Bifrost. Personality. Warm, hearty, and helpful to his allies. Serious and honor-bound in combat. Perspective. Heimdallr is a protector of Asgard and the many secrets it contains. He is seen as wise and is highly respected by other gods. It's interesting that there are multiple mentions here of him being positively seen by other gods and helping his allies and everything, so I wonder if that will be limited to just the vision aspect, or maybe if he will provide more vision to his team as well in that regard, or if he also has other buffs or effects for them. Persephone, Queen of the Underworld, seeks to manipulate Yggdrasil itself in order to carry out her plans. Her goals are not necessarily evil, but that depends on who you ask. Her dream is to remove power from the gods and thus providing humanity more control over their own fate. She has strived for many years to set this plan into motion, providing an elaborate distraction to keep Olympians busy. A distraction that Heimdallr will see right through. As her journey reaches an end, she sees Heimdallr standing tall at his post. He will stop at nothing to protect Yggdrasil, and the final battle of the Underworld Odyssey will soon take place. Will Heimdallr be able to fulfill his purpose, or will this newfound threat prove to be too much to match? Spoilers, if the predictions for the next god are true, then it'll probably be too much for him. Heimdallr's visual exploration started with one simple goal. Iconically, undoubtedly Norse. It has been a long time since a human male Norse god, and we wanted him to display a combination of traits. He needed to represent the pantheon's most quintessential visuals such as fur, horns, and runes. He would need to stay true to his mythology, shining armor, and his relics. Finally, we added in the twist of a hunter. new weaponry, and a lighter weight take on his historical armored description. These first roughs explored a series of different armor styles and head styles. We were immediately drawn to the body of armor version 1 and the idea of a more full helm. The next rounds of concepting focused in on these elements while also refining his weapons. Looking at the designs here, we can definitely see the Norse style reflected in all of them. We can also see those elements of fur and everything. I personally have to say I like the third version a little bit better. I think these horns on the shoulders just add something to it. There were actually 2 variations of that as well with different helms. Though I can see why for a hunter the first version would be a bit more fitting. It just makes him look a little bit more agile. Though the end result ends up somewhere between both of them anyways. So here's the design they ended up with, quite a Viking-esque style overall, though we can see a lot of golden bronze-ish elements being weaved into the style as well that maybe aren't quite as typical. And we can also see that reflected in his weapons, which, for example, on his axe have some runes, and even on the sword you can see a rune at the, or close to the handle. And they also have this consistent blue glow on them, maybe to give him a bit more of an icy vibe in his overall style, which also again is a very Norse thing. After a few rounds we had our final guard. The process went smoothly with this guard and all teams were quite pleased with the result. Some guards go through quite large redesigns in the early concept phase, but Heimdallr had clear artistic vision that drove him directly to success. Similar to his visuals, Heimdallr's kit also had a clear goal. Design a hunter that does not feel formulaic. Players had shared feedback about hunters feeling similar to one another. They often contain a ranged damage ability, a self buff, and some form of mobility. We specifically try to avoid that combination with Heimdallr, and I think that is a great decision. I think we need more variety in how new guards play in general, in every class really, because we see a very consistent pattern of specific things being copied over and over, even in the newer guards that have more unique kits already. Even with Persephone, for example, you still see kind of an idea of a main damage ability, a secondary utility and damage ability, a mobile escape, and then a damaging ultimate. So I'm glad they try to shift away from that. Heimdallr's unique gameplay features are: his basic attacks have a longer animation time at higher damage scaling. These attacks rotate between ranged cleaves versus higher damage single target, following an AAB chain. That could mean either 2 cleaves or 2 higher damaging hits. I would think it's probably 2 quicker hits with cleaves and then the higher damaging hit last, but it could really be either way here. Definitely interesting in either case. His base stats are on the tankier side for hunters, or similar to the lower end of warriors. So again, in many ways, I guess he is more like a warrior with range attacks. And this is the point where I can talk about the reason why I think he is not a ranged warrior. I think the main reason here is not that HiRez didn't want to make him a warrior, but rather that they didn't want to give him access to all the items that only warriors and assassins get, specifically to avoid him being able to pick up haste and katana. Because this kit with haste and katana sounds like it could be very, very overwhelming, especially with the slower hits. It would give him a large benefit. And in order to avoid that, they would have to make an exception rule for him to be a warrior that can only buy hunter items or something. And that's why I think, or at least I think that's part of the decision why they went with him being a hunter. He has no ability that temporarily boosts his attack speed or power. There were earlier mentions of his attack speed also not quite scaling the same way as other hunters. I'm not sure if that's actually the case or if that was a misunderstanding. If you can actually still build him with a typical DPS build or you're just building into raw power, but I guess we'll find out. He can gain a vision of areas of the map in ways other than wards. As many as 3 of his abilities can grant him vision bonuses, and some can even see stealth enemies. As far as I'm aware, Ponbon already teased a little bit of, or gave us a bit of a spoiler about this. Part of this will be his passive, which allows him to see enemies for 4 seconds after they have been revealed by anything. So for example, if they walk through a ward, you will see them for 4 seconds after they leave the area of the ward, or if they go into stealth, or if they get hit by a Nuwa ult or similar. So that should be one of the abilities that provides him vision. And then I am fairly certain that his ultimate will also be one of the abilities, having the Bifrost being included in that somehow and potentially being able to travel above the map or something so that you would be able to see enemies from there. And I don't know how the rest of the stuff will work. Maybe there is going to be some way to mark enemies as well, but it sounds very, very interesting, and I really hope that the other mechanics synergize with that. We also know that he will get a power increase for having vision of enemies on the map. So the more enemies you see, the more damage you get, or in other words, the more ward your team places, the more effective he is. He has a movement ability, but one that requires planning and functions unlike any other ability in SMITE. He has an ultimate that features new tech and visuals to create a unique experience, especially for the enemy hit by it. As a hunter, this god is expected to play the carry role, which traditionally means duo lane, but could mean mid as well. I'm a little bit surprised that HiRez doesn't mention solo here with his warrior-esque stats, and maybe jungle with the cleave, but we'll see how that works out in the end. Often their prediction on where a god gets played ends up being not the final result anyways. The end of Season 6 has relocated gods to many different places, but 7.1 hopes to restore us back to a duo lane and heavily discourage invades. Very interesting note, we're basically getting a spoiler for the upcoming Season 7 patches here, so that would be cool. I hope it does. I think it's well over time that we get something that discourages early game invades, but we'll see how that works out. And it's going to be interesting how the meta shifts affect a new god release around the same time. Heimdallr will only have a short time in the current meta before the next season, and we'll look forward to seeing his players adapt to the changes. The Vigilant One will see your actions before you take them. He'll be a formidable foe in any one-on-one or team encounter, even if you do manage to surprise them. Hunter players are hungry for a new challenge, and Heimdallr will give them a chance to prove themselves. Now, usually this is the part where I would match the kit with the data mining a little bit, but in this case there's really not that much we can find. We know that he will probably somehow swap out his weapons when he uses abilities to the sword and to the horn, but the abilities themselves aren't giving us all too much. There could be a knockback from the horn, there could be a teleport that comes with one of these abilities, similar to the Janus teleport, and there is definitely the Bifrost in there somewhere, most likely in the ultimate. But with the information that we have, it doesn't really add too much clarity, because a lot of the things that are mentioned about his kit aren't even included in all these things, aside of the fact that we can kind of get the passive marking enemies by making them visible, but that's pretty much about it. So that's all the information we have for now. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit the sub button and maybe the bell, it really helps me out. And other than that, see you for the next one later today, I guess, or tomorrow, depending on where you are, for the patch notes for Heimdallr, where we get the rest of the details. I'm really looking forward to it. DukeSloth, out.